Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and we're going to be doing DFS slate preview number 3, where again we're just tracking my thoughts on the slate as we get deeper and deeper into the week, as information starts to trickle in and as the lines start to move. And that's one of the things we're going to focus on this week. Is some in this video is one particular line movement which warrants some attention. We have to figure out what we're going to do with it. The other thing, I want to start again. It's Thursday, so I want to start thinking about what lineups can look like, um, and maybe talk about leverage just a little bit more. We're not going to be able to run Sims probably until tomorrow, but today we can start talking about some lineup construction. Again, we'll just continue to reinforce what we like and what we don't like. So we're still good with Pierre Rodriguez with her takedown upside at um, at 7,400. Again, she's not going to win all the time. She's going to win, whatever, 33% of the time only. But I don't really see much of a variation where she wins without getting takedowns. It seems like such an easy path for her to attempt, at least, that if she is successful with it, she's probably going to score very well for her price. So we're going to continue to do that. There's a little bit of, not really, line movement to Dave Grant. I was going to say, I was not really, not much change here. Tavares still with the plus 215 inside the distance is a strong play, but Grant inside the distance now, is pretty much the same as Tavares. So where I was just kind of at Tavares or bust, I think it's kind of silly, right? I think you have to play both of these guys. And again, we promised ourselves we're not going to ignore this 208K fight unless we have a really, really good reason. And both these metrics are perfectly fair. So Grant is now up into the core group of fighters that we sort of have to respect. Maverick, again, same thoughts as before. Definite upside, and she could also break your heart. Like, she could put up an 80-point score as well, even when it looks like she's dominating. But I do think that there's really serious upside here for Maverick if she gets it going. I'm still hearing more of this Lima business, and I don't know. I still don't see any reason to do it with this inside the distance line being so weak. So I'm probably just going to end up fading this. Now, again, when I say fading, we're talking about, kind of like big buy-in, top play type stuff. We're certainly going to get some in 150, but but as far as like cores going, you don't want to do that. I mean, I don't. Let's keep track of who we are possibly playing here. Woodson Padilla, I am still of the belief that Padilla has got some dynamic upside here. It's kind of a tough one to envision because Woodson doesn't seem like someone that ever gets finished. It's got really, really good range management and things like that. But nonetheless, Padilla inside plus 300-ish is pretty reasonable. Now, it's not great at 7,600. That's the price. That's what we're looking for something like 71, 72. The other thing going against Padilla is I don't really think Woodson is going to be particularly popular, so you don't get a lot of leverage with him as well, which is also, by the way, the same argument against Rodriguez. I don't believe that Knudsen is going to be particularly owned either. So while these guys look pretty decent, it's not like you're getting any leverage with them, so they're not like smash plays, but they're certainly a big part of the underdog. Now, on the other hand, let's look at some of these others. So Alvarez still, haven't seen much other than, his line continues to skyrocket, actually. And then in addition to that, inside the distance is now up to like minus 150. I mean, it's getting a little ridiculous here. He's just an incredible play. I still keep going back and forth whether I need to play close here. And what's intriguing about the close side is even though he's going to win the fight only 20% of the time, and his inside the distance line isn't even that great. If it's plus 1,000, is that enough? I mean, not to overcome, but is the fact that he's going to be leveraged against what's going to be a popular Alvarez enough to get me to close? Right now, the answer is no. So I'm probably going to be off of that one. This Johnson Azatar fight is continuing to be a source of aggravation for me. Part of me just thinks the fight's going to bust, but the numbers kind of are what they are here. And just to kind of just take another quick look at it. I mean, Johnson inside plus 120 is good enough at his price, and Azatar inside at plus 300 at his price is certainly worth playing. So you definitely want to play both sides of this fight. And again, this fight will definitely break your heart. The Sterling thing, again, same as before. 9,600 is a tough price to pay. And I don't believe he's going to get a lot of takedowns. So you're really looking for a quick win bonus or a knockdown and a first round finish with sundries, so to speak. It's not so easy. It's just not so easy to pay that. However, raw points do matter. And if you don't get, the right underdogs coming in, you're going to want his 105, 110 points. So he's certainly going to be in play here. Let's see what these like round one props are nowadays. Sterling round one plus 175, and that's what you're going to need. So I think it's safe to say that you can look at it as 33% of the time he might get there again, because there are variations where he wins first round and doesn't get there. Maybe 25% of the time he gets there, and that's probably going to be what his ownership is. So it's probably a break-even play. And Tokos, just doesn't win often enough. So the fight with the line movement is to Daniel Marcos. He's now up to a firm 200 vig adjusted, and at 8,500, that's a very strong line movement. So what's going to happen? I mean, if you looked at this from an optimal perspective, he's got to be considered a tremendous play. Just if you were like building cash lineups and you just wanted to, make sure the math was on your side here. I mean, you have a minus 200 guy at 8,500. I mean, you certainly have to play him. However, in GPPs, again, when you're looking for leverage and upside and things like that, can't really look at it that way. What you just have to look at is what is his inside the distance line at 8,400 or 8,500? His money line is great, but you look at his inside the distance line, it's still not that great here. It's like plus 200 big adjusted. And you compare that, you're going to get this Davy Grant fight. Like these two dudes are not much different, like plus 225, plus 250, at 80K and 8,200. And because the line has moved so much in Marcos's favor, optimizers are going to get to him. So Marcos is going to be really popular here. So I'm more inclined to fade this into ownership. And as a matter of fact, I'm more inclined to play the Yanez side because, listen, Yanez, his inside the distance line is not great for his price. He's going like plus 300. And remember, plus 300, we'd rather have him be like 7,200 or something like that because he's got no grappling upside at all. So at 7,700 plus 300 is not great. But again, when you're getting leverage against what's going to be a popular fighter, I think you have to do this. So I think Yanez is in a weird way, it's a pretty sneaky play. So I kind of like this a lot. All right. Petrino Jacoby, I'm still the same. I think you should play both sides of this. Petrino, obviously his metrics look great. His inside the distance minus 150, 140 or something like that. Very similar to Alvarez. He's also got some takedown upside, which makes him just a real smash play. But I'm a little stubborn here. And I do think that Jacoby still is being underrepresented. On the numbers, I mean, it's not great. I mean, to say the least, plus 500 inside, but 20% of the time he gets a finish against what's going to be a popular fighter. He's not going to be 20% owned. So if you look at it that way, he's going to be pretty strong. And you're going to get leverage against Petrino here. So I do like, I don't know why, but I just like this Jacoby punt for some reason. Uh, Cap Silva, same as before. Okay, so remember from yesterday, I don't like Cop at all. I mean, at 9,200, his inside the distance line, especially for just a striker, is just not going to be good enough. It's like plus 200 here. The interesting discussion is Bruno Silva because Silva, so uh, on an island, he looks like a really, really good GPP play, right? Is inside the distance line. Let's see this. Boy, it really doesn't even look that good. Why is this? Why is he only plus 700 inside? All the guy does is knock people out. It's just kind of crazy. Um, I guess just because he's plus 330, what are you going to do? So boy, maybe Silva's just not a good play after all. Because number one, his inside the distance line is not as good as I thought it was. His win odds are not that great. And not only that, but Cop is not going to be popular at all, so you're not even getting leverage. So I guess that's a big difference. Is I think I'm going to be much lower on Silva than I was yesterday. Okay, so that's interesting. Main event, same play, but yeah, both sides are in play, but you don't have to play either of them. Okay, they're both like very, very strong plays, but there are. Well, I'll say this: I think you do have to play Covington. Okay, because if Covington wins, he's in the optimal. He just is. At 70, what is he? 7,200. I mean, at 7,200, he's either going to win a 5-round striking fight, which is unlikely, a 5-round fight where he gets a bunch of takedowns, which is very likely, I mean, in his win condition, or get a KO. I mean, almost all of those results get him on the optimal at 7,200. However, Buckley has variations where he wins does not get the optimal. He could get, I mean, you name it. Right? He can get taken down for 2 rounds, then get a 3rd-round KO, no good, right? He could stave off the takedowns and do just enough striking to win a decision, score 90, 95, no good. Okay. At his ownership. So I think Covington is actually the priority here, but Buckley's obviously very, very strong play. But again, I do think you can fade this main event in some lineups. So what do we do here? What does some lineups look like? Let's do that. Oh, sorry about that. Quarantillo again remains. I can't be talked off of this quite yet. Still has the same volume he always had. The numbers are pretty much the same, right? He's 8,400 plus 190 inside, which is fine, and he's got that volume and those takedowns. So still super strong play, and I'm not really getting this one. So what are these lineups going to look like again? So I mean, if we start with, and you're going to probably have to play one of these favorites, right? Between Buckley, or maybe two of them, between Maverick, Alvarez. Like the best ones are probably Petrino and Alvarez, I suppose, and Buckley. All right. So these are three probably the best ones. Now, you can't do this, right? Because then you have to go 7,100 a man. And the only guys that I even liked at all that were less than 7,100, one of them was Silva, which I didn't even like that much anymore. And the other might have been Jacoby, who is against Petrino. So this type of build is not going to work. Okay. So you're not going to be able to play three of them, but you'll be able to play two of them pretty easily. So if you did this, for example, let's say you got rid of Buckley. Is Buckley worse than either of these two? I don't know. The more I think about it, I think all three of those are pretty close. So if you played Petrino, Quarantillo with two of these, then what do you get? Well, at 7,700 a man, you could do some business. So first thing you could do is play that Tavares fight. And if you play the Tavares fight, I'm just guessing Grant. I mean, I'm just doing the more expensive one. Actually, let's just say you play Tavares, the more expensive one. 7,500. I mean, we could come up with two good underdogs at 7,500. Or can we? No, you know what? There's three lineups that work, right? You could play with the Padilla, Azatar, and Rodriguez side. All well, most combinations, two of those three combinations you could fit in. So this is probably a good looking, you know, low risk type lineup. Or you know what you could do? Instead of Alvarez, you played Buckley, for example. Then you can even get more combinations. Then you can get some Yanez and Padilla and Azatar and Rodriguez. You could shuffle all four of these guys. So going Buckley for Alvarez, you definitely save money there, and you get much more middling type builds here. Um, the other thing, by the way, you could do obviously if you went, I forgot about this. So if you didn't play Buckley, if you went to say Alvarez instead of Buckley, then you get Covington opening up. So now you actually can get all kinds of variations. You play Covington with any, of these Giannis. You know what I mean? Like all these. So that's what lineup construction is probably going to look like in the big volumes, like at least for me, is some kind of combination of that. Like Quarantillo is going to be in most every lineup, if not all of them. And it's going to be, two of these three between Alvarez, Petrino, um, Miranda, Maverick. Okay, you could even get like, for example, let's see what happens if instead of those kind of moderately priced guys, you go all the way up to Sterling and Maverick. Okay, you can still do this. Okay, because then, well, you can almost do this. You have to play Covington in this variation. You probably have to play Grant. Actually, you don't. You know what I mean? You just don't play that fight. Then now you're into this whole shuffle again. The Yanez, Padilla, Azatar, all these. So all of this works. Okay. And this is what the low risk lineups are going to look like. And when I say that, what does that mean? You know, if you shuffled and did all the combinations of the lineup I just kind of screwed around with in here, probably could come up with like 100 combinations of that, maybe even more. So if you wanted to play GPPs, you want to throw 150 into the 150 max or whatever, and just do all those combinations, you could do that. The problem is that a whole bunch of those in that particular contest are going to be way overduped, way too chalky. So you're not going to be able to actually play that way. I mean, you can, but you're throwing money away. When you get coming down to that contest, that's when you really have to, get your sims going and do some funny business. But for 20 max, it is pretty. I won't say straightforward. It's straightforward, but they're decisions, right? It's not like I came across one lineup that worked. I mean, the Quarantillo makes it fly. Okay, playing him at 8,400 makes it fly, but you don't even have to do that. Like you could play again, Yanez, Padilla, and then you could where's that other mid range fight? Tavares, something like this. So you don't even have to play the Quarantillo play to make it work. And I do think Quarantillo is going to end up being pretty popular. So who says you have to play him? The other thing I guess I would note is that because I was able to shuffle all these lineups really easily, maybe none of those guys are going to be that popular because it's not too difficult to get off of one of them and onto the other. So maybe the ownership is kind of spread out a little bit. We'll see. Really, the ownership projections probably tomorrow. Well, definitely tomorrow, and then we'll have a better idea of what's going on. But I think you can build good lineups extremely easily. Now, again, it's not as if we were completely chalk because you remember in no variation did we play Daniel Marcos, who could end up being one of the more popular fighters on the slate, especially if this line continues to juice like this. Okay. Other guys, by the way, that we didn't even look at, what do lineups look like with Michael Johnson, for example? We talked about maybe playing both sides of this fight. Like, what does that look like? Like, you can't play him. There's no way you could play him with three other studs, but can you play Johnson with, say, Buckley and Petrino? Oh, Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I mean, then again, you could get Quarantillo in, and then you're playing, you know, well, you're not doing this, right? Because now we're too cheap here. You can't really get there. But you could play, ooh, so you can't play Johnson with Buckley and Petrino. I mean, you can, but then you end up playing Silva, for example. And once you play Silva, then you could do whatever you want. But if you don't play Silva, then you're kind of run out of room. Okay. So maybe it's worth in constructions like this, it's take your shot at Silva here. But the metrics are pretty poor. So these Johnson lineups, so if you can't play all three of these, comes kind of tricky. Like you really can't play. I mean, you take out either of these two, sure, but I think you want the juice. So if you take out Quarantillo though, and you place him with say Grant, I mean then you can get this done, right? Then you can get this done with the Azatars, the Padillas, the Yanezes, or whatever. So that's the thing. The Michael Johnson Quarantillo pairing is going to be tough to play. Okay. Now again, when I say tough to play, you don't have to play the guys that I like. Okay. But if you want to focus on just playing what I think are the solid ideas here, um, that's where you're going to be limited to. But I do think that pretty much any of all of those plays that I kind of blasted through would make good lineups for 20 max. And some of them even for the 555 and for 3 max as well. As far as again for the 150, it's a different animal. We have to really focus on uniqueness for that. And that's what we're going to do hopefully tomorrow when we get the Sims and kind of blast away. So that's going to do it for now. And we will follow up on this tomorrow. See you later.